Today's video, I'm going to show you guys how you can mix spatial audio using the same Dolby Atmos production suite tools that the pros use. You may be asking, do I need a full Dolby Atmos surround sound system? Well, the answer to that is actually no. Instead, we're going to use the binaural modeling available in the Dolby Atmos renderer. Just to be clear, this Dolby Atmos mixing process works with any type of headphones. In the first part of this series, I'm going to be walking you guys through how to install all the software you need to get up and running. I will then show you how to set up Dolby Render Room. Finally, we'll be using all the software we installed to mix in Pro Tools. The chart behind you will be a useful reference as it shows the main signal flow and how the Dolby Atmos renderer actually works. Essentially, you have the Dolby Atmos enabled workstation, aka your DAW, for example Pro Tools, which will then send audio to the Dolby Atmos renderer. The Dolby Atmos renderer in essence acts like a second DAW. You will use the renderer to output all the information to your actual headphones or surround sound setup. The first piece of software we'll need to install is the Dolby Atmos production suite. We're going to be using the 90-day free trial on it, which should be plenty of time for you to get started in surround mixing. The link to that will be in the description below. It's important to note that you will need an iLock in order to use it. Next is a piece of truly free software, which is the Dolby Atmos Music Panner. Once you've downloaded the Dolby Atmos DMG, open it up and scroll to the installation type page. There are many different options here, and I recommend checking everything except for the renderer remote. The Dolby Atmos renderer is the actual program you'll be using. The LTC generator plugin is what will allow the DAW to communicate the time code to the renderer. It's very important that you check the Pro Tools and Nuendo templates if you're using those DAWs. You also have to check the Dolby Audio Bridge. It's very important that you listen to me right now. The Dolby Audio Bridge will require your computer to restart at the end of this installation. So watch this video till the end and then continue the installation and restart your computer. Now, after you've restarted your Mac, you'll want to open up whatever DAW that you're using, and you'll want to check and see if the Dolby Audio Bridge is there. Chances are you probably don't see the Dolby Audio Bridge under the setup or under your list of audio devices, and in that case you'll need to go to security and privacy, and where that little red line is right there, it will say something Dolby, and you'll want to allow that setting, and then things should be all good from there. DAWs. Once you have Dolby Atmos Render Room, you'll want to open it, and when you open it you'll see a screen similar to this. Now, the first thing you need to do is hit Command, comma, or you can go up to the top and go to the Preferences window. And we'll need to configure a few settings here. What you want to do now is you'll want to plug in whatever audio interface or pair of headphones that you're going to be using to monitor the audio coming from Render Room. So let's go over the settings now. You want to have core audio selected. You want to select Dolby Audio Bridge from this list here as your output device. You'll want to use whatever headphones / interface you plan to use. And for external sync source, you'll want to go to LTC. It's usually set to MTC by default, but you want to set it to LTC. Very important, you need to go to headphone only mode and check that, and I would do routing 1 through 2. Something to note about sample rate, you're probably going to want to work at 48K. You can move on from here to the headphone tab over here, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to set it to binaural. Okay, this is very important because this is what's going to allow you to basically model you being in a Dolby Atmos room. Okay, this window is a window I find myself often on because what you can do here is you can basically A/B between stereo and binaural audio, which will help you kind of get a feel for how this mix is going to translate. And then make sure that you hit accept down here. The render room actually isn't really used to control any of the objects. It is simply used for monitoring and visualizing your mix. It is also used for recording your mix. Up here you have different things you can mute. For example, you can mute the objects, beds, or you can mute both of them. Next you have a dim switch. You have a recording section up here, and this also is the enable sync button right here, and what this does is it syncs the render room to your DAW, which you will need in order to actually record. Next you'll have this object list over here. This whole purple section is your bed. The best way to describe a bed, it's basically like your kind of stationary mix, and then you have your objects, and your objects are basically the individual instruments that you can turn into objects and have them be panned around super easily, position them super easy. This will make much more sense once you see an example. It's important to note though that with Pro Tools you're only going to get a finite number of objects that you can use unless you're using Pro Tools Ultimate. Next you have a simulation right here of all the different speakers, so you can mute, say you want to mute the center channel, left channel, right channel. So if you're mixing for say 5.1 instead of 7.1, or maybe a setup that has even more speakers, you can kind of simulate what that mix is going to translate like by muting different speakers right here. And then you have this view right here. There's a theater view if you're working on films, and there's a person view. I just keep it on person view. You can also number objects, which can be really helpful. So once you open up Pro Tools, you'll want to first create a project, and you need to follow these pretty specific settings. So the first thing you need to do is you want to check create from template, and you'll want to go and click on one of the Dolby Atmos production suite folders, and you'll want to choose the Dolby Atmos renderer, Dolby Audio Bridge Stereo template right here. Make sure your sample rate is 48K, and you'll want to create that. To open your template, you'll see a bunch of different audio tracks which are routed to different objects. So first thing I want to do is go to playback engine, then hit Dolby Audio Bridge, make sure to select. It'll reload here. You'll want to go to IO, and then you'll want to import settings. In the IO settings folder, you should find something that says Dolby Atmos renderer, Dolby Audio Bridge Stereo.pio. Make sure it's a stereo one, and you'll want to open this and import this information. Boom, press OK. The first thing I'm going to do is actually delete a lot of these unnecessary objects that we don't need. Since the normal version of Pro Tools only has a finite number of outputs, there's only so many objects we can create, and anything past object 31 to 32 won't work. The next thing you want to do is import your audio tracks. Now that you've imported your stems, you can go and delete all the extra objects that you do not need. Just go ahead and delete all these other objects. Now we have our stems here, and it's time to actually route these as objects. So the first thing you'll want to do is go to output, and you'll want to assign mono audio tracks to mono objects and stereo audio tracks to stereo objects. So I'm just going to go ahead and start patching this stuff. I'm going to do object 11 for the kick drum. There's another kick mic, so I'm going to do 12. Okay, so we have everything routed, but there's one additional step we need to do. You know the music panner I made you install? Well, you need to actually have that on every single channel, because that is what's going to allow you to control the Dolby Atmos render room. So now you'll want to find the Dolby Atmos music panner, and it pops up right here. Choose mono. I'm just going to hold Option and copy this to every track. Now what you'll want to do is you'll want to make a new aux track. Doesn't matter what the name is, but you'll want to pull up the LTC, Dolby LTC generator plugin. Then you'll want to assign this to 129, which says LTC 129 right here. So you want to assign that. This is going to allow Dolby Atmos Render Room to sync up with your project. Now we have to do an additional layer of patching, so we have to patch the panner in. So this should match this right here. So okay, now we have everything patched. So the first thing I'm going to do is a test run, and I'm going to hit play, and you should hear the audio coming through once you have all this set up. And as you can see, I have render room open, and all these objects are lighting up, indicating that there is signal passing through the render room, and you'll be able to see a 3D representation of the objects right here. I'll show you guys a few basic things about how this works. So you have a few controls. You have X, Y, Z. X, you move it like this. Y, you can move it back and forth. And Z is your height. So if the object is really big like this, then it's at the ceiling, and if it's really small like that, then it's on the floor. And this corresponds to render room. You can see it right there. So if we wanted to make it higher, we can crank that Z up, and you'll see that it's above our heads. You can also go here and visually interact with it and drag it around. Another thing that's very important is the size. The size is actually how much the object bleeds into other speakers and how big and how loud it is and how prominent it is. So I like making my kicks pretty big. So this size is going to kind of allow this thing to bleed into much more areas and make it seem like it is surrounding you more than just having it, say, be in like the back left channel. You'll see sizes represented by this big halo right here. So I'm going to be making some more in-depth tutorials about the panner later, but right now what I encourage you to do is to experiment, start mixing with this stuff and get a feel for it. It's really fascinating, it's really great, and yes, it makes a huge difference. You'll find that you'll have much more room to position, pan, and play with objects. You'll find that you'll be EQing stuff less because you have more space to put objects in the mix. You can do tons of crazy cool tricks and all that stuff. So stay tuned to my channel for more tutorials and content about Dolby Atmos and mixing for spatial audio. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.